Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Jesse, your DM.
Cody playing Lazarus.
Brennan playing Dis.
Mike playing Nim.
Britt playing Kenna.
And we are Double Doubles and Dragons. We're a group of goofy Canadians that have gotten together to play a little D&D. Sometimes we will say things that are inoffensive. We mean them as jokes, of course, and they're certainly funny to us, but some people may find this offensive. If you do, we apologize, but we don't want any hate mail about it. So just don't listen, okay? Let's jump right into the action. Okay, welcome back everybody. Quick recap of our last episode. We've been going through some of the downtime activities. We've set out a couple of things that each person wants to do. We've also set up a slight idea of maybe a 4 to 6 month time skip might be required, but we're kind of tiptoeing into that to see if people are happy with that or not, and we'll kind of figure out where we come out at the end. We have had Dis decided to go first. He's been checking up on Fei Lin, found a building not at all destroyed like the other buildings around it, and has since recruited Nim to go take a look at it, and they found some interesting things about the building, and we'll get right back into that. So, investigation rolls. Nim did really good. Dis did alright.
I'm investigating.
So, Dis, we're actually going to start with you because basically with an investigation roll like that, I'm just going to give you kind of the general stuff that you see. So you decide to head upstairs. The way you find to do that is by going into the back room behind the counter. That room is also empty. It would usually be like a storeroom where extra materials are being stored or things that maybe don't belong right in the front of the shop. Completely empty. That room doesn't even have shelves in it. It's just completely empty. But there is a stairwell that leads upstairs, and in a lot of shops like this, the person has kind of their apartment on top, so you're hopeful. You proceed up the stairs, you get to that door at the top of the stairs, and much like the front door, it is readily open. So you just turn the handle and it pops open. You do a little bit of a check. You're not a fool. You keep an eye out for anything dangerous as best as you can, but very quickly, you realize you're probably not going to find much. The entire upper area has, in fact, been set up like an apartment, but the small kitchen area doesn't seem like it's seen any use in easily, like, over a year, if not more. There is a small room off to the side of that seems to be a bedroom. There is a bed there with a small cot, almost like a prison bed, like just a very small, simple bed. It does look like somebody's maybe laid in it before, like there are blankets there and they're not as dust covered as the rest of the building is, so they've seen slightly newer use, but there's nothing else in the room. There isn't even a nightstand. It's just the bed.
Well, I'm checking around and looking at the floor because you said it's dusty, right? I'm looking for any footprints or anything, especially coming off the bed.
Sure.
So
around the bed, the dust has been disturbed, but in a very haphazard way. There are footsteps going in and out, but they go from the front door of the apartment to the bed, back to the door. Like, several sets of that.
I'll go back down after that and just fill in on what I've seen with the footprints.
Sure. While you do that, Nim, you've been taking a very close look, looking for anything secretive. Secret doors, trapdoors, ways into a basement, really anything. You've crawled around and you have been meticulous. You don't like this bitch, and you're really trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Dis comes back, tells you about what you found up top, and you're kind of like, yeah, in a minute. You're doing your thing. And you spend about an hour checking everything you can get your hands on, and you come up with nothing. Just as you're about to give up, you're checking the counter space. And as you're pulling back from the counter and looking up at Dis to tell him you've got nothing, you notice that something's been carved into the underside of the bottom shelf of that counter. You turn your head around, you get a little bit of a better look at it, and there is a very simple phrase written there, and it simply reads, "Stop looking for what you can't find, and settle on what you can." I love it when they all stop for a moment to write down the words I say.
And obviously I pass that along to Dis.
Yeah, absolutely.
What language is it?
It's written in common. Not even particularly fancy script, just carved into the underside.
What does it mean?
I'm gonna try sneaking the actual fireside now.
What, judging the hand or the carving, does it look like it's the writing style feminine, masculine? Like, the way I'd mark those two would be like a more flowing, like, I don't know, like lighter writing style. Brittany's writing versus ours.
Due to the fact that it was carved, it's fairly blocky. Nobody's done any work to make the carving look fancy. It's just a simple up, down, left, right carving.
I don't know if we're gonna find anything else here.
I don't think so.
We probably head out and fill in everybody else on this.
Which wanted you to think.
This is a body.
Yeah, it's just like, there's nothing here.
I mean, it does beg the question, why protect an empty building?
It's true.
Well, enchantment.
Oh, yeah, sorry, from the blast.
Okay, you return to the party. You fill the other two in. I guess, is there anything either the two of you would like to add to the situation?
I suppose that's where Lazarus would mention out his idea of the readers involved.
Okay.
Someone's controlling the readers in that.
Yeah, so you pitched the idea that the greeter brought you specifically to that shop, even though it had only been around for a while.
No other customers.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. That's suspicious.
It does seem suspicious.
I think there's more going on.
Someone already had these threads down for ages and knew just the most opportune people to trigger it.
It's an interesting idea. It didn't necessarily need to be you. Maybe you just sort of fell into it. Could be.
I mean, that does kind of seem like with everything that's happened.
I want to go around.
It's pretty hard to unintentionally summon that demon to the microphone.
Based on that kind of thread and conversation, I want to also extend my search into what would people be expected to see as repercussions to an adventure that caused something like we did?
Okay, so trying to very carefully tiptoe around why nothing really seems to have happened to you?
Yeah, and see if this is like kind of an overarching thing, like maybe it wasn't just a level of failure that wanted us to do this, but like something overall and they want to keep us in the same kind of position we were already in.
Well, didn't they kind of tell us that though at the hospital when they were like, you guys shouldn't have been sent there?
Yeah, that's right, because they kind of... But
so that's why we didn't get as much of a punishment, because it wasn't just our
I think,
yeah, it was like
Sergeant
a lower
Strang
level.
said we're not being punished because after it was unleashed, there was nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever mentioned something towards like what Britt was saying.
Okay. We can add that to the list of things that you're looking for.
So who would be conspiring against us then? Would it be Sergeant Strain? Would it be the quest giver?
You know what? I feel like
It's gonna be
Sergeant...
higher up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be higher than that.
Sergeant
I think
Strang-
somebody knows that we
Sergeant Strang
know...
feels like a dog.
I think somebody knows
That's
that we
what
know
he thinks.
Maverick.
Oh, they all know we know Maverick.
Yeah, somebody told them that the first
Yeah.
day you were here.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, you're
Oh,
being made
yeah, and then we have to
copper
play around
because
it.
of your
Yeah.
relationship to Maverick.
I think you basically let it slip to the woodsman that brought you in.
No, we didn't.
No,
Yeah, we
Or he saw you.
Maverick's what
He
triggered
was
that
with
trap.
us, and
Yeah.
they asked us how we knew him, and we said, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And we were successful in deceiving him.
Correct. Though the fact that you are loosely associated with him definitely made it through to the Stronghold with you.
Yeah, but I'm curious if that maybe it's not that they're like worried about us doing this, but that somebody was watching. They totally know, and this is all like some sort of plan to get Maverick back or something, or...
It's an interesting idea. Something you guys haven't pitched yet.
We don't even know if Maverick wasn't captured.
Yeah, it could be that too. Fuck, you could be the reason this would be another thing from him that he started.
Could be. All right, if it's all right with you, since we've done a little bit of dis, I'd like to switch to somebody else, and we'll kind of keep doing a layered approach to
Giant puzzle.
That depends. Lazarus, do you want to go next, or do you want to let like Kenna / Nim go, and each of you can work on your God's puzzles a little while?
Yeah, I can just skip and work on it.
Okay, that sounds fine with me. I'm not even really going to particularly time it. As long as we go for at least the 4 months, I fail to see how you could not solve them by then.
Solid.
Excuse me.
One of these days I'll have to take a picture of the puzzles, and just so we can put them online, just be like, these are the God puzzles they're solving. It's not anything special, it's just, a Rubik's Cube and a puzzle I bought from San Francisco, I think, was where I got it. But yes, so the two of them are going to work on their God puzzles a little bit. I apologize for anybody listening if you hear clinking sounds, as one of the puzzles is metal. In the meantime, Nim or Kenna, or perhaps both of you, if you want to discuss more about some of the shared events that you're doing, who would like to go next and do a little bit of their downtime activity, maybe the first 1 to 3 weeks of their time?
I'll go. I haven't really had anything yet.
Sure. That sounds perfectly fine to me. So we've got somebody to train you in the alchemy kit, looking up some spell scroll options, doing the farming rung stuff, or looking for kit are kind of the main ones I had for you.
Yeah.
So where would you like to start?
Kit.
Okay. So looking for kit. Where are you looking? How are you looking? What of your skills are you employing?
Man. Okay. So I think going back to the last place I saw her, which is, going to be hard in itself because it's right by the fire zone. But then tracking is going to be pretty much impossible because people are running.
Also, a shockwave tends to obliterate footprints.
Yeah, also that.
You are a druid talking to whatever life you can find is possibly an
probably
option.
is going to be what I'm going to end up doing is just talking to, people and animals that I see. Asking if they've seen a little goat running around.
All right, we'll start with the basics. You have to get into the exclusion zone first.
Yes.
In what way? We know how Dis got past the guards. How are you going to get past the guards?
Charlie good looks. Or I could just turn into a squirrel.
I like how she rolls her eyes at me like, oh, you're going to make me play the whore again, aren't you? And she's like, or I could just become a squirrel. Like it's my fault she rolled in one on attractiveness.
I think Kenna would likely turn into a squirrel. She's not naturally the whore.
Alright, fair enough. So you turn into a squirrel, you very easily slip past the exclusion zone. As I mentioned before, it's defended, but it's not like it's being defended like it needs to, be a prison or some sort of heavily fortified. It's just being casually watched for... Most people seem to be indicating that it's kind of being watched just to make sure people don't go inside and hurt themselves. Right. There's a lot of debris and unstable buildings and that kind of stuff. So, you turn to a squirrel, you slip past. I need a luck roll and a survival check.
So 9 for luck.
Okay.
Not very lucky. And,
Alright. Exactly. Next.
13 for survival.
Okay. Kenna goes looking for Kit. You start where any good search starts, from the last place you saw them. That in itself ends up being quite a task. There's not so much the road layout anymore, and trying to find where that little park was actually ends up being kind of the hardest part. All the rubble looks the same. to be completely honest with you. You do find small amounts of life living in the area. There are certain things that can survive events such as this. There are small amounts of grass that manage to survive due to various circumstances. There are, of course, the ever-popular bugs, cockroaches, that sort of stuff that just seem to survive almost anything. So, through speaking with these smaller entities, you begin to paint a small picture in your head of the area, and it's a little bit easier to get them to direct you to where the park is because it is an area of nature and they kind of remember it fondly, and you do find a couple that have enough information to keep you going in the right direction. After almost 4 days of searching, you think you've got a handle on where the park is. So you spend the rest of that day, your 5th day, searching for the park. And just at the end of the day, when the light has already done its instant flip to darkness, you stumble around a pile of rubble, and there is a small open area where the park used to be. You can still see little bits of grass that were kind of skewered by debris, but don't seem to have suffered too badly. You can kind of still see the layout of the park. There was that tree there. It's been almost completely obliterated. There is a small stump there that is kind of the remainder of the tree. And there is obviously no sign of Kit there, but you've found the starting point.
And I assume there's no tracks or anything.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
Everything here's been windswept clean.
Then I think I will try to think like a goat.
All right. Go on.
If I were a scared little goat and I heard a big boom, what would I do? Slash felt it. Should probably not lie. Which direction, from where I'm standing, which direction would the boom have happened?
Directly in front of you.
In front of me.
Yeah.
So if anything, if she'd been pushed, she definitely would have been pushed, like, behind me. So I think I would just start looking back there.
I will note as well, you're not alone in these places. In almost all of the areas you've gone to, there have been people that have been marked for cleanup. It was one of the first activities that the Lord of the Market Rung committed when he first arrived, was to basically organize people that had already lost their businesses or had lost their jobs, were roped into cleanup duty. So there's a fair amount of activity going on in the areas as well.
What are they wearing? Like, how can I... Like, what's setting them apart to be marked for cleanup?
It's basically anybody in theory past this point is supposed to be here. So there's no specific uniform they're wearing or anything like that. There are wagons set up. People are very slowly doing the process of picking up the rocks, trying to clear spaces so that, larger wagons can be brought in. It's a whole process going on.
Cool, so I'd also enlist humans to ask them if they've seen a little goat or anything.
Sure. Roll another luck roll and persuasion.
It's a 4 for persuasion, but a 16 for luck.
Okay. It takes 2 more days of searching, but you finally come across a young man who says that he thinks he knows what you're talking about. He is from the area. He's one of the people involved in helping with street cleaning work in the area already, and has been kind of roped into cleaning because of that. He does remember seeing a goat just before the blast, because he works in the area of the park. However, the rest of his story leads not as lucky. He wasn't around for the blast. He was rather thankfully away. He was pulled away by the guards when they were evacuating the area. To his knowledge, nobody moved the goat. That's really all he has.
Okay. And from like searching back behind the buildings, like I didn't find.
Nothing obvious. You've been searching around and doing your best to kind of sift through the rubble, but there's just so much rubble. Current estimates of when the cleanup will be complete is a little over a year, so I mean it's going to be a while.
Right.
I will note as well, I think you're the one so far that's gotten the closest to the original blast. That entire section of the city, the skyline there, you're used to the sort of ephemeral bluish green that kind of dominates the skyline here.
Yeah.
There is a very clear division when you look in that direction, where the horizon, there's that green layer of kind of wispiness, and then there is a hard, almost angry-looking red barrier that is, it's kind of like, if you imagine a circular mouth filled with teeth. The barrier, the breach, is basically red-charged, angry-looking teeth in a big circle on the horizon. And in the middle of that void, there is just an open blackness.
Oh, that's fun. I would pass that along to these guys. Do you want to take your turn?
Sure.
Okay, we will take a moment and go to Nim. Nim, should we start with the laundry and work our way out?
Sure.
Okay, so, good news on the laundry front. As we mentioned before, you've more or less accidented your way into a monopoly on the magical cleaning services, and it served you well so far. Within your first 3 weeks, you are almost consistently dealing with more customers than you can handle. Almost every time you've gone to your shop in the morning, or when you haven't been there for an early part of the day, but you decided to go in the afternoon, you have almost consistently come to a line at the door, we'll call, to the small stall that you've been provided in the alleyway. So much so that on your, what would that be, about halfway through your second week, you're actually approached by about 6 or 7 guardsmen that have indicated that, should you wish it, there has been enough requests from the general populace that you be moved to a more accessible location and a more appropriate for a large clientele building than just a small stall secreted away in an alleyway somewhere.
Alright, I'll consult with my business partner.
Ah. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
To get a bigger spot?
Yeah.
Absolutely. If we have a monopoly on this, let's set this up as a business.
Alright.
Okay, so the guards move your materials. They are actually even kind enough to donate the use of a wagon, and they help you move the clothes you have. Not especially because of the fact that a large contingent of your business has been the guardsmen, as they have a fairly stringent cleanliness requirement being a member of an organized militia group. So they have been definitely some of your best customers. They help you move. They move you to a building that is only 1 block away from the central portal. You are practically in the center of the market. The building is only 1 story tall. They didn't have a building with an apartment available for you, but they do set you up with a small 2-room space, one set up for intake and another set up for storage. And they basically indicate that as long as you're willing to give the guardsmen a 50% discount, they're willing to give you the building for no rent.
That's fine. So 5 copper.
Or should we try to give them 30% off? Or they still have to pay a silver, but they get the cent for free.
That's still a 50% discount. Alright, we'll just go with 50% discount. It's fine.
Okay. So they are more than happy to receive that. They help you move into the new location. People in general seem to be happy as well. They definitely prefer lining up here than in an alleyway. The neighboring group that you had, there was several people that had moved less appetizing shops to alleyways around you. You were specifically only about 17 or 18 feet away from a guy who was doing tannering, so this is definitely a move in the right direction. Anything else you would like to do or ask around that avenue?
Well, I guess, like, if I'm that popular, I'd probably look into hiring someone
Okay.
for intake purposes.
What kind of person are you looking for specifically? Pitch to me the resume you're looking for.
Charismatic,
Yeah, someone charismatic,
trustworthy.
definitely trustworthy. How do you tell? Well, I guess you're insightful.
I'm very insightful.
Okay.
I guess it would be Kenna and I doing the interviews, so...
I would assume so. It is your business after all.
Yeah, just charismatic and trustworthy are the main ones. Everything.
Kind. Patient.
Because I'm the one really doing the work, so this person's
They're
just
just the
there.
face.
They're just the face of the business.
But that's
just-
why they need to be kind.
Yeah, they need to be
Okay.
kind.
Follow-up question. How are you looking for this person?
I guess, like, I would ask the guild if there was any, like, requirements on hiring.
Okay, that's a very good point. They may have their own restrictions. Do you tap any of your fellow group members? Not necessarily for the job, but, I mean, you know Lazarus is well known in the farming rung and seems to have a decent reputation there. Dis is attempting to infiltrate other types of sectors of the city, and perhaps employing one of them might go a long way to helping his activities as
I
well.
feel like I'm finding right.
Yeah, honestly, like, just based on what Lazarus has been doing, I think we would probably tap him first just to see if there's anyone that's been, like, working on the church with him that would fit the bill.
Okay.
Just because, like, you know, religious people, typically pretty trustworthy. And, hey, in D&D world. Let's not go too far. Britt's like, I went to a Christian high school.
I'm just trying to think back to all the religious stuff I've had you guys deal with, and I realized I really haven't been too dickish with the religious people overall.
No.
Well, people building a church are trustworthy.
I think farmers are trustworthy humans.
Well, yeah, and who's building the church?
Farmers.
Okay. So, Lazarus, they come to you for advice on picking a person. You've dealt with about 30 people.
Okay, you're gonna have to pitch me up here a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So they are looking for, like, the whole thing. They're looking for somebody to run the front desk of their laundry business.
Yeah.
They believe somebody who was assisting in building the church may be the best avenue, and they've come to you. They've obviously said they're looking for somebody trustworthy, sociable, somebody that can maybe handle things on their own, but isn't going to do anything crazy. You can think of about 5 people in your head that you think might fit the bill.
Okay, and are each of these farmers?
3 of them are farmers. One of them is the person right under Father Maxey, kind of like his deacon. And the other is a member, you're not really sure what his job is, to be completely honest. He doesn't really seem to be a farmer. He is almost working on the church consistently, but doesn't seem to be directly related to Father Maxey. He's just kind of been around a lot. But he's charismatic enough, he comes to your mind in the top 5 list. Though slightly more
Okay,
mysterious.
so where are they found again?
I don't know. I guess they could either come to you at the church, if that's what you've been doing for kind of the early part of your downtime. We haven't hit you yet, so kind of wherever you figure you might be the best place for them to find you.
What? Okay, but you
Go
just
ahead.
told them that you got the people.
I told them that you've got 5 in your head. I'm leaving it to you to decide. It's a little bit of luck mixed a little bit with self-intuition.
Okay, but then I'm just passing them the information of those people, right?
Correct.
And then we'll interview. So I guess
If you're willing to give them all 5. I've told you the 5 that come to your mind. It's up to you if you pass all 5 on to them.
Sure.
Okay. That sounds fine.
So we'll
Are they all guys?
Yeah,
So confused.
I didn't intend it to be really heavy for you because I knew you were still working on the puzzle, but I didn't want you to feel like the transition happened without you. Okay. You pitch the 5 along then, and I guess, is there anything you want to check for specifically yourself before you pass them on? Because you're, so far, for the first couple of weeks you've been working on the church building, is there any feeling of selfishness there, of trying to keep the people that have been doing really good work on the church for yourself?
Oh, no.
You're
no.
comfortable with letting
No,
them have...
I'll probably mention, for the 3 that I pass on, I'll probably mention they're immediately farmers, so you'd probably be looking more towards family members maybe be hired, because farmers not have time.
Fair.
So, and then the rest of them will be them to judge. They're not that available themselves,
Okay, I think that's perfectly fine. So Lazarus, as he says, pitches you these 5. He mentions 3 of them are farmers. They may be busy, and mentions the what he's aware of the other 2.
Okay. I think, should we just approach them and ask them if they'd be interested in interviews the rest of them?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll start with the 3 farmers. So each one of them, though flattered for the invitation, exactly as Lazarus described, pretty much all of them are quite busy. They've been doing the church work in their free time because it's their church, they have that deep connection to it, but quite frankly, they just don't have the time to invest in it directly, which leaves you with the deacon and the somewhat more mysterious individual.
Okay.
All right.
Sure. Which one first?
Probably interview the deacon guy first.
Okay. All right. So, the deacon's name is Wally.
Let's come back.
So, anything in particular you're looking from these people? Like questions you might specifically ask them, information you're looking for?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Don't say doing your wife. Don't say doing your wife. Don't say doing your wife. Doing your son? But no, we don't have to, because it is just downtime activity, we don't have to do it step by step. I'm just trying to gauge best which of the 2 you might find more interesting.
I guess just, I don't know, any specific questions for you?
I think we'd probably try to ask what they do in their free time, if they're interested in getting a job outside of the market or outside of the farming rung, if they can travel to the marketing rung.
That's a good question, whether or not they're freely able to travel or not.
Exactly. Because if they're not, we're gonna have to get permission for them to travel because they have a good job. We could ask mysterious guy, what do you do during the day other than working on the church, and why are you so dedicated to working on the church?
Sure.
Just kind of insight the questions. I don't know. Do you have any? Does that sound good?
Okay. So, in terms of a general pitch, Wally says he basically spends all of his spare time attempting to learn more about the Word of the Lighted One. He seems very dedicated to the religion. It's mainly the reason he is the deacon for Father Maxey. Perhaps frustratingly, he's picked up some of the speech patterns of Father Maxey, so he's a little grandiose in his talking. In terms of freely able to travel, through your connections with the guards, you've managed to basically cut a deal with them that you need somebody to help keep the shop running, and in order to make that work, they're comfortable giving passage to whoever you pick, as long as they don't have a criminal record. So in that sense, you're fairly free. The more mysterious stranger, whose name that you come to find is Alex, doesn't have as firm of a background. He says
Roll trigger now.
Easy, guys, easy.
Just an Alex. Roll trigger.
Alex says that he more or less came to in the Stronghold about 4 years ago. He's been told by the healers there that he received a fairly significant head wound somewhere out in the wilder world, and was just by pure happenstance picked up by one of the patrols and brought in for treatment. Since then, he's been a member of the Stronghold. He hasn't really had a concrete job since then, but he really finds he struggles with a near OCD level of meticulous detail. He's basically been using the church building as an excuse to do an outlet of that OCD. He's been making sure that every time a new brick is laid, it's been perfectly square and plumb. He's been basically attacking it with all of the attention he can give it to kind of redirect that nervous energy.
So why hasn't he had a job in 4 years?
Because he was only restricted to traveling to the farming rung after he was cured, or not cured, healed would be a better way to describe it. He's only been able to travel that rung. He doesn't really have a lot of desire to do farming tasks because they just don't apply to the cleanliness and order that he seems to crave. So it just wasn't a good option for him. He worked under Lil for a little while as one of the bar boys cleaning up the tables, but they found he was a little overzealous with that. Not in a bad sense, more just the farming rungs bar is really meant for people to just kind of spend the rest of their night hanging out, and he was a little bit more of the running it like a restaurant type of idea, clearing the tables so new people could come in, and there just wasn't that kind of turnover, and that frustrated him, so Lil basically just gave him the option to leave or not, and he chose to.
I guess follow-up question for Alex would be, would he find working for a dry cleaning company fulfilling in his endeavors?
He seems to. I mean, he basically, you described to him kind of the duties he would be involved in, and he seems to very much like the record keeping, the needing to keep very meticulous records of who brought in what services did they require. He does seem vaguely happy that he wouldn't have to deal with any of the washing itself directly. But yeah, overall, he seems fairly excited. So does Wally, to be fair. Both of them seem fairly open to the task.
Can we trial them?
Yeah, let's do that. So I guess the first, like what? Do you like give them 2 weeks? So I was gonna say just like give each one a day like back to back and see who does better.
Yeah, we can do that.
Sure.
And not really tell them that that's what we're doing. Just say, hey, show up on this day. Hey, you show up on this day.
Okay, try to keep it a little covert.
Well, not coverts.
I would say just like we want to, but I would let them know that this is a trial, so they don't think they have the job.
Yeah, so like, not like misleading them thinking they have a job, but just so they like don't think there's like a whole bunch of candidates. Just like there's a trial.
So you're trying to be nice, but you're also trying to be clear that you need to vet them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds perfectly fine to me. I would like from each one of you a luck roll. I think we'll just do it by luck.
Me as well, or?
Yes, actually.
You should disclose.
You asked.
Well, no, I'm in context.
No, I'm totally all for it.
You said all roll.
Yep. No, I'm totally on board. So sorry, 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
14?
13.
Okay. So, the first day you try Wally, things go a bit weird. He is, as I mentioned, a little overpowering and preachy. It kind of reads more like a dry cleaner who's trying to save every soul who comes in through the door. But that's not really what kind of gives you a weird feeling about Wally. There's a little bit of an accident at the church on the day you're trying Wally. One part of one of the walls collapses. Nobody's hurt, but it does set back construction a little bit. And Wally, in that moment, kind of decides that to him the church is more important and actually ends up leaving about halfway through the day. As for the second day, where you're giving Alex a shot, give me another set of luck rolls. Cody as well, still.
The double small numbers, so pretty small.
God.
Yes.
No, we can't do that. 5?
3.
Okay.
6?
Wow. Okay. Not very lucky. So, second day rolls around and it's Alex's turn. The church is still having some problems. They've basically found that due to the way that wall was constructed, they're going to have to take down a significant portion of it to redo it. There is a war at play, it seems like, for Alex. There is definitely the idea of fixing the wall to be better this time versus your store. However, Alex does decide to continue working for the full day at the shop. And by the time the two of you finish your daily tasks and kind of come check on things, at first you're extremely worried. When you approach your building, there is nobody waiting. In fact, the street itself is perfectly quiet, which is definitely not how it has appeared to you almost every other time you come here. However, when you come inside the shop, your worries are more or less tempered. Everything is perfectly organized. Alex is sitting at the counter. He's got a stack of ledgers about this high of forms that he's been processing for people. He appears to have taken it upon himself to create a more careful audit trail of the people coming in, and has managed to process the day's customers well in advance of your arrival. There is one downside, however. He has appeared to have more or less taken the shop for his own. Not in the sense that he believes he owned it, but even when you come in, he demands you take your shoes off. When you approach, he tells you to stay 2 feet back from the counter, so as to not sully the clean products waiting for pickup. Overall, he's a little controlling.
Can you have some characters with him?
I think we have to. I think we can offer him the position, but he has to follow our rules for the store. I think we could keep the unit foot away from the counter, or don't lean against the counter, but you can't get people to take their fucking shoes off every time they enter the room.
Yeah, just let him know that we'll keep the shop clean and not to worry about shoes in the shop. Because,
Okay.
cleaning's not a big deal for us, so.
All right, that seems fair. So you kind of you pitch these restrictions to his more aggressive management style. He seems amendable to those conditions. He seems willing to listen to you, certainly. However, when you offer him the job, he comes back to you with a condition of his own. He doesn't want to be paid a flat rate. He's willing to take the extra time that he has found there will be when no customers are around to attempt to draw in more customers on his own. And due to being willing to put in that extra effort, he would like a cut of each profit, basically. He wants 5%
Of the total profits?
of the total profits.
Three.
We counter off here 3%.
He thinks on it for a little while, and you can almost see in his eyes him reaching for the 4, but he nods and says he'll settle for 3. Okay. Sounds like we have a deal. Okay. I think that'll handle Nim and Kenna for the time being. Let's see. We'll just kind of jump back. How are you guys doing on the puzzles?
Mine's fucked.
Yours is fucked?
Yeah.
They're quite puzzling.
Sorry, I'm just watching him put it together. Okay, so where that leaves us then is we've done about 3 weeks of downtime for each of you. Are you guys still liking the idea of going a little longer? What's kind of the thought process there?
We haven't done anything for Lazarus yet.
Yes, sorry. Sorry, I was sitting there and I'm like, he's working on the puzzle. Actually, let us do Lazarus right now. So what's kind of your top priority of the task you had? Oh, sorry. So I've got jewelry shop, getting your carapace repaired, Removing Tunnel Fighter in exchange for a different proficiency. Trying to grab bits of world knowledge, though you didn't tell me through what process you'd like to do that. Gaining influence with the church, and we had getting your ring back, but you've got that back already.
And the merchants as well.
Yes.
So I suppose the first thing, the simple stuff to do is probably find someone who can repair how much it's going to cost. Armor.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely do that first. So, give me a... We'll start with a luck roll for obvious reasons, and we'll go with, let's see, for the other... we'll just go with persuasion in terms of trying to kind of find somebody that may help you.
20 and 13.
20 was the luck roll, or... Okay. So, good news. Mostly thanks to the catastrophe, there is a large number of people looking for work. In fact, even in the first couple of, minutes of you putting feelers, I'm just kind of be like, you know what I'd really like to do is find somebody to repair some armor I've got. You've got, 7 people paying attention to you. There is a large contingent of people that have been put out of their shops that are looking for work to fund repairing their shops. So you don't want for contact. Unfortunately, that makes things a little more difficult in certain ways because you are just really getting a lot of interest.
All right, well then I'll very quickly be like, I'll quickly trim them out by if any of them have experience with organic materials.
Okay, that's a very good one. You easily lose 70% of the initial candidates just by indicating that the armor itself is an organic material. That leaves you with about 30% of the initial people left. We're talking maybe 30 or 40 people that claim they could do it.
How did I get surrounded by this?
It's mostly the entire market, as some of the other people have found out, is basically running on grapevine communication at this point. So even just the casual... a barman at the bar where you guys are kind of doing your day-to-day kind of decompression just happens to overhear that that's what you're planning to do, and the next thing you know, half the town knows that some big lizard with a huge piece of armor is looking for somebody to repair it, and that it'll be a decent affair, so...
Okay. And so I guess not talking to that many people, one-on-one, I'll see those who, I'll limit it down and see which of the remaining really need it, I'll kind of see if I can pick around and find someone that actually is really in dire straits and needs the work.
Okay, somebody who maybe specifically lost their building, or maybe even worse.
And then I'll also be checking out and seeing if they're interested in, obviously going to be interested in setting up a repeated, a rapport sort of thing here.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That's all good. So let's see what we've got here. I'm going to go with... Okay. So, through those 2 conditions specifically, talking about looking for who maybe needs it the most and who can maybe do this as a running business forward, you come up with 5 people. All of these people have a sob story. Most of them are pretty bad. At least 3 of them have not only lost their building, but lost family members in the blast. 2 of them lost their buildings as well as all of their tools and have had to essentially start from zero again, which, at least as far as the blacksmiths are concerned, is almost worse than losing your family. The other, basically everybody's got a really good reason to need you, and are certainly more than willing to set up a more continued relationship.
All right. Well, I'm trying to decide what sort of conditions Lazarus would be looking for here. So between those 5, how many? Because it's not like we can afford a down payment to get someone's shop started or anything right now.
You'd have to consult with your group mates as to exactly how much money you maybe have liquidated. How much do you have on you?
Lazarus just has his purse of 30 gold.
Okay. And what's the shared bank looking like these days?
Not much. We have 448 gold, 959 silver, 2,000 copper. But we also have to be paying rent to the mill, I believe.
Yes, because you still don't have a different place to set up accommodations. Which was...
In talking to all
Yeah.
these people, in general, what's the cost to replace the tools they would need to finish the job?
Most of them are indicating they realize you can't really pay for the whole thing up front, because not a lot of people have that kind of money chasing around right now. What was the AC of the armor again?
Split 18.
Right.
It's not full. No, it's a half plate currently.
Right, it is a
It's
half
not.
plate.
It's half plate, not full plate.
Right. Okay. That gives me a little bit to go on. So, in terms of the tools, the ones that are missing, almost all of them are missing some of their tools. It runs the full gambit from one guy, perhaps you feel a little dubiously claiming he only needs about 10 gold to get going again, all the way up to a younger woman who claims she'll need about 60 to get going again, is kind of the spread.
Okay. Well, I suppose in between there, Lazarus would probably just bring it up in the group.
Okay, go ahead.
Just easily. Alright, well, here's the deal. Lazarus has spoken to many of the craftsmen. Lazarus is now considering the possibility of earning ourselves perhaps a repeated rapport with one of these craftsmen if we're able to also loan in to get their shop started.
I guess we haven't really asked, how much is the dry cleaning? How much are we bringing in a day, approximately?
In your first couple of weeks, which are easily probably your slowest, depending on how the rest of the downtime goes, I would say you're looking at a rough estimate before you get a really specific accounting going of somewhere in the order of between about 10 to 30 gold a day, depending on the flux in and out.
Alright. Yeah, then I'll... Yeah, Lazarus, we're making some pretty decent gold with the dry cleaning shop, so anything you need for your armor, we kind of can, I feel like we can cover.
Yes, but for which are we going here? There's a few options and thus various costs.
Well, I feel like the guys who are too low are just trying to rip you off and just take your money and run. So I'd probably go with, like, maybe even just the most expensive one, because she might appreciate it more. Because, I mean, 60 gold's not really all that much to get set up again.
There's such an eye roll from Kenna there.
2 days of work.
In order to secure ourselves a repeated craftsman.
I know, I'm just saying that, like,
Yeah, that's
just because she's the most expensive, maybe she's gonna run away with the 60 gold.
Right, Lazarus is just asking for the gold for now. You'll have to determine that when he goes.
Alright, well, how much do you want then? 40, 60?
Lazarus would be fine, borrowing 40 for now.
Okay.
So, I guess mark down a tab that Lazarus.
Yep.
We'll need to have a...
You're gonna have the running tab of like what's plus and minus from this.
Yes.
Whatever
Yeah,
you
I'll need to
calculate
know,
at the end.
like, how much money we have.
I would start with, for now, keep track of what you're paying out. We will figure out your in when we know how long the rest lasts.
I'm just taking it out of the gold we currently have.
That's probably a fair way to do it. Take it out of what you've got until you run out.
Okay.
So you're going for the full 60, the young lady?
I'm gonna like have those few show me their shots. Like, I've seen their shops and everything
Yes.
for each of them, so
Yeah.
I know that each of their situations checks out.
Yeah, as best as you can tell, for most of them, their shops are literally small rooms they've managed to beg from other people that they can be given to perform their craft. The young lady looking for 60 gold is actually working out of the same alleyway that Nim was in only a week ago.
Okay.
Did we ever communicate with her?
I suspect you probably had at least casual interactions with her.
And what were the interactions with her like?
Pleasant. She's fairly young. She's a dwarf. You'd guess somewhere between 13 to 25, but it's hard to tell with dwarves, and she doesn't exactly give out her age. But overall, she seems
The
pleasant.
last thing I would do is ask around them ask around their crafts about their quality of work and work ethic before their shops are open.
Okay. Just trying to get a general read on the craftsman?
Yeah.
Okay. So, through that particular activity, you exclude 2 people.
Okay.
2 of them you find information on where it just seems to indicate that they did what you're asking for, but they were well known to be the kind of people you go to when you can't afford good people to go to.
Okay.
And through that, you exclude them, leaving you with 3. That also excludes, by I'm sure no happen chance, the 2 cheaper people that were willing to kind of get going for less. The 2 of the remaining people, kind of average responses. They do good work. Nobody's really complained. That kind of stuff. The young lady, the one that's asking you for the most.
Mm-hmm.
She does seem to have the best reputation.
Okay.
She also belongs to a separate group of craftsmen that are all known as the Farthians.
Parthians, hey?
The Farthians are just a group of craftsmen in the city who have been deemed to be somewhere within the top 5 of their field. It's kind of meant to be an upper echelon of recognition.
Okay.
Question, and I probably would have thought of this last time I was talking to Lazarus, but with the shop space we currently have, would we have any space left over to host a craftsman?
The current building you have only has the 2 rooms, a front room and a storage room for the materials themselves. If you got creative with how you were moving things around, perhaps. You may also be able to, within the next month or so, pitch for a bigger building. You definitely are getting the impression that your business is becoming quite central to the recovery effort, not necessarily due to filling a need that can't be met elsewhere, but to being the fastest way a certain need can be met. You definitely get the impression that give it another month and you could probably have a fairly significant building in your possession.
With room for us to live in?
Perhaps. It depends on how hard you push the guards. It's well known they like your shop, and they seem to be getting a fairly good opinion of you as well. It's just up to you how much you want to push that relationship.
We'll give it some time, but we'll push for a bigger shop.
But yeah, so the young lady seems to be the top ranked of the 3 you have left, but she is the one asking for the most money, and she is the one who needs the most help getting going. Not only did she lose her shop, she lost her younger brother and both her parents in the blast. So she is all alone at this
Help
point.
the girl.
Yeah. Alright. So I'll head out, and I'll try and find that lady again.
Okay. Not too difficult. It actually, we'll call it a certain amount of providence. She quite frequently uses Nim and Kenna's shop.
Okay.
So.
Do I have her name?
Yes, her name is Philly Blackhand.
Is that a PH or F?
An F, actually.
Alright. So, and I'll just... Where is she right now? Just
for lack of a better word, she's living on the street right now.
Yeah. Alright. Lazarus will take a stroll up to her. Casual stroll.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello, Philly.
She kind of... There's that moment where, like, you can tell she's kind of in her own mind, but as you approach, and she definitely recognizes you, she lights up a little bit and just, it's you.
Yes, it is.
Have you come to discuss our contract?
Lazarus has.
Perfect. I assume then that you will be taking on my services.
Lazarus would like it if you have prepared his armor.
I thought you might. As it stands, I had every confidence that you would eventually arrive to the right decision, so I took the liberty of procuring some of the materials I would need, though that has put me rather significantly in debt.
And as you discussed, you said you would need 60 towards...
Correct. 60 will get my forge going again, and the tools I need, I will still need to work in the alleyway at that price. If you would like a more private workspace, if you're worried about somebody stealing the design of your armor or anything like that, well, we would have to talk about something a little bigger.
That should be of no consequence. Materials hard to find.
That seems fair as well. I did have a couple of questions for you about how we're going to go about this and that sort of thing, but I can leave that till once I actually get the shop set up, if that would work better for you.
Very well. And I would also like a concise list of all the purchases and materials with the 60.
Of course. That seems fine.
Alright. So then, how long are we going to be looking at? Total costs? What's the further conversation?
She says that she's gonna need about 2 weeks to get set up. Especially because the forge will need to be basically configured and then tempered to make sure that it can get up to the right heats and that sort of stuff. She recommends you come back in 2 weeks. She gives you a quite literally bullet-by-bullet point of everything she bought, down to the cost of the mortar for the bricks that she's using. It's very meticulous and well taken care of.
That's what I want.
That's basically it. She says, come, in no uncertain terms, she basically tells you to come back in 2 weeks, and more discussions can be had.
Okay. Cool. So I'll mark her on 60.
Okay.
Here it comes.
I did forget, because you guys didn't know her name at the time. Philly does have a small reputation within the group that lived in the alleyway that you guys were originally set up in. She did have a rather unpleasant individual at one point liken her name to the name of a horse, and she did beat him rather resoundingly. Yeah, she's a dwarf. She's not going to take that shit.
Nice.
But outside of that, she seems like a perfectly pleasant
Alright,
individual.
so then from there it would be to find a simple... I suppose within the same conversation, I'd probably even ask Philly if she would recommend anyone to make minor shirkings out of
Wooden metal.
She would probably offer herself afterwards to make the metal one.
Yeah, she basically indicates if it's anything that needs to be fancy, she absolutely recommends herself. If you're looking for something made of wood or a more simple iron that's just a container, she has some people she can recommend that'll be able to do it at a much cheaper point than she would, just because she'd want to put more flourish into it.
Alright, well, I'll just tell her straight up that since we're going ahead with this, I'll just have to take her to do it after 2 weeks.
Okay. So the necklace will go to her as well.
Might as well.
Okay, that sounds good. Alright, we're just about at a break time there, so I think we'll take a break. Everybody's had a little bit of their interaction, and we'll see how much longer we want to go today. Okay? See you guys in a bit. Wow, what a cliffhanger! I wonder what's going to happen next time! Seriously, guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening in. If you liked what you heard, share us with your friends. If you hated what you heard, share us with your enemies. Seriously, though, like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll find out what happens to Double Doubles and Dragons next time.